Good morning. We're pleased to be joined this morning by representatives of four valuable private broadband providers who have a presence in Iowa: CenturyLink, Frontier, Windstream, and Consolidated Communications. We're here to announce that each has agreed to accept funding through the FCC's Phase 2 of the Connect America Fund. The FCC created the Connect America Fund in 2011 to foster growth in broadband access by reforming the Universal Service Fund. By accepting this funding, these providers will focus on broadband installation to some of the most unserved areas across the state, a top priority of our administration. And we thank them for this important effort. Overall, these providers will reach nearly 90,000 rural households and businesses in providing speeds of at least 10 megabits per second download speed and 1 megabit per second upload speed that today receive little or no broadband at all. The map over here to our left, provided by Connect Iowa in conjunction with the Iowa Economic Development Authority, shows what consensus blocks will be served on this expansion. As you can see, this is a large part of our landscape that will soon be receiving broadband internet speeds. In Iowa, technology and access to broadband internet is the greatest equalizer for our rural communities. And it's far more than just email, YouTube, and social media. It is our families and small businesses that need to compete in a global economy, and our schools and agriculture community connected to an abundance of new technologies. We must continue to build out where and when possible. We will continue to seek sources of funding for broadband deployment to make Iowa the most connected state in the Midwest. With that, these four providers, I'd like to first of all thank these four providers for their investments and their efforts to make a better quality of life for Iowans. And now I'd like to turn it over to the Lieutenant Governor to tell you more.
Well, good morning, and thank you, Governor Branstad. And I, too, want to thank CenturyLink, Windstream, Frontier, and Consolidated Communications for their efforts here in Iowa. You know, as a former county treasurer and state legislator in rural Iowa, I know that a key part of our continued economic growth is the ability to have broadband capacity. And it's part of our vision of adopting broadband. We know that will help make us the most connected state in the Midwest, which has been a goal of ours since taking office. It's the vision that we had when we charged the STEM Advisory Council, Council's Broadband Committee, to develop legislative recommendations for broadband build out in 2013. And it was the vision that we had when we proposed our Connect Every Acre initiative that passed this past session by an overwhelming bipartisan support. And it's the vision that we strive to see in the future for all Iowans. It's clear that the economy is evolving, and to remain competitive, we absolutely must remain connected. The communities that will thrive in this new economy are those that take every opportunity to continually improve their technology capabilities. The governor and I get to see firsthand the need for this connectivity on almost a daily basis as we have the opportunity to travel to all 99 counties each and every year. So whether it's a small business upgrading their software in Mount Air like Podium Inc., or a student who's enrolled in a STEM scale-up in Algona, or the 26% of farmers in Iowa who still don't have the access to the internet to buy the equipment and market their commodities, or to use precision farming that we know is so important to our environment and to the technology that's available for our farmers across the state. We must be aggressive in utilizing resources that will bring every Iowan into the digital age and continue to knock down barriers where possible. And I am confident that with the many valuable partners that you're going to have the opportunity to hear from this morning, we're going to make that objective a reality, and we're going to do everything we can to connect Iowa and offer opportunities all across this great state. And with that, I'd like to start off and bring to the podium one of those partners, and that is Mike Sadler with CenturyLink for some remarks. Michael?
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. And thank you to you and Governor Branstad for your leadership on this issue and everything else you do for our state. I'm excited to represent CenturyLink this morning to share this positive news with my fellow telecom brethren. You all know that access to broadband is critical to economic development, education, telemedicine, and quality of life for all. Today's announcement reconfirms our commitment to rural Iowa. Century has accepted funding from the Connect America Fund for $17.8 million. That funding, combined with the significant capital investment dollar match from CenturyLink, will allow over 34,000 new locations in Iowa to receive broadband speeds of 10 megabits download, 1 megabit upload. Thousands of other locations will benefit from these investments as well, as their speeds are increased and their quality of service increases. There's been a ton of work that's gone on behind the scenes with my coworkers that have made this day happen, and I thank all of them for their hard work. We're also very confident in our frontline workers, our communication workers, that will be very instrumental in rolling out these projects and making these investments. We also look forward to continuing our work with Iowa policymakers as we continue to create an environment in the state to make investments fruitful. Obviously, we know these investments are going to be great for the future of Iowa, and we look forward to making Iowa the most connected state in the nation. Thank you, and I'll introduce Greg Gray with Windstream.
Thank you, Michael. The Federal Communication Commission created the Connect Iowa Fund in 2011 to facilitate broadband in high-cost rural areas. Windstream accepted $175 million annually for 7 years from Phase 2 of the Connect America Fund. This will enable us to expand and support broadband services to 400,000 rural locations in 17 states. This amount will supplement Windstream's network investments and greatly benefit our rural customers and their committees with robust and reliable services. What does this mean for Iowa Windstream? In Iowa, that amounts to $29 million in annual support for 45,000 homes and businesses. This will enable us to serve high-cost areas and deliver new services to many others. This is exciting news for Windstream customers, and I personally am thrilled to be a part of Connect America plan. Windstream would like to thank Chairman Wheeler and the FCC for this important program, along with Governor Branstad for his continued leadership in broadband issues here in Iowa. Thank you. I would like now to introduce Representative from Frontier Communication, Jack Phillips.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you, Governor Branstad, for the opportunity to be here with the other three companies to bring very positive news to the state that's going to benefit both residents, farmers, businesses in our more rural areas of the state. Just as quick background, Frontier operates in 28 states. We have 36 communities we serve in the western part of Iowa. Frontier's been a leader in deploying broadband services. We're proud that we've reached nearly 95% broadband availability using investor capital, which is great news if you're part of the 95%, but not much help if you're that 5%, the white spot on the map that does not have broadband services. With Connect America funding, the acceptance of that, along with the responsibilities and obligations that come with it, that combined with the governor's initiative on Connect Every Acre initiative is going to help us bring higher speeds and new services to over 5,400 customers within our service area. Those that are in the rural areas, the highest cost service areas, those that do not yet have service. And this benefit is, in terms of improved infrastructure, is going to also benefit existing customers in terms of building up our backbone networks, which will provide better speeds to existing customers. We know that broadband transforms the lives of individuals in many ways. It improves the quality of life in our communities and further strengthens the state of Iowa. Frontier Communications is very excited to participate in this initiative, and we look forward to bringing new services to the communities that we serve. And I'd also like to introduce from Consolidated, Mike Schultz.
Good morning. I'm Mike Schultz with Consolidated Communications. Thank you, Governor Branstad, for inviting us. Lieutenant Governor Reynolds. We appreciate the opportunity to speak and tell you how excited we are. We're actually the newest carrier. We acquired Heartland Telephone from Inventus back in October of last year, and we're happy to be able to bring broadband to rural Iowans. We are receiving about 2.3 million in funding. Will serve over 3,000 customers that will not have or do not have broadband today in Iowa, and it's very good. The economics associated with being able to do this would not happen without this support from the FCC, and so we are pleased to be able to bring this type of investment to our 11 locations in western Iowa. We think this will be very beneficial to those communities and help grow rural Iowa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to thank all four of the companies for what they're doing. We're glad to partner with them and with the FCC. Connect Iowa has been working with us, and we have now honored 19 communities as connected communities. Most recently was Woodbine. We had a great event out in Woodbine just last week at the school, and there's a lot of excitement about this. And you know, none of us, I guess, were around when electricity came here, but I've got to believe we're seeing the same kind of excitement, and it's the same kind of thing. It's not just one provider. It's not as it was with electricity. It wasn't just the investor-owned utilities. It was also RECs, and it was municipals, and they all were part of it. And we're proud to be partnering with these four companies and with others to bring broadband to all parts of the state of Iowa. Obviously, we want to do that as quickly as we can, and we want to get the speeds up as quickly as we can. With that, we'd open it to your questions on this subject first. Yes.
I just want to make clear, if I understand, this was what was announced like last week, but this is not something that's brand new, right?
Well, I think different parts of it were announced by the different companies. We thought it would be important to give you the whole picture, show you the map, and show you the four companies that all are doing this in the state of Iowa. So this is not necessarily new news. I think some parts of it were announced, but what we're trying to do is, just as we have our own initiative called Connect Every Acre, and we're moving forward on that, and we're also visiting the communities that are becoming connected communities. We want you to know this is a statewide comprehensive effort, and we're partnering with the private sector and obviously with the federal government as well. Most of these have either none or very little broadband at this point. Well, but if you look at Polk, you see a white spot in the middle. That's Des Moines. Many, yeah, can you answer that? I guess, you know, it just as with electricity. It came to the areas that were the most profitable first, where you have the larger population. But I would also say Winnebago County, where I came from, Winnebago REA, our Winnebago Rural Telephone Association, put in fiber optic cable to its rural residents before I was elected governor. So there are some rural areas where the providers have already moved much quicker than others.
If I may, in our 11 exchanges, our largest exchange is a little over 3,300 customers. Our smallest town is 255. So it's on average, it's 1,600 homes or population in those communities that just the core of that town will have broadband today. And it's not at the 10-to-1 speeds. It's probably a meg, if that. But it's expanding it beyond that half mile from the center of the town. So it's really expansion of unserved areas. I can't speak for all the companies, but in our locations, they haven't had it in the 10 years prior, and probably wouldn't have it for another 10 years. So it's probably unlikely that some of these locations would have been built to, because it's just not economically feasible. Change the dynamic. Yes.
Well, it took a lot of money to get electricity to rural America too. And just think of what a difference it's made in the lives of the people who live in rural America. And so what we're saying is, we don't want rural America to get left out of the changes that are taking place. And we know without broadband, we're not going to be able to attract the kind of businesses that we want there. Farmers are not going to be able to use precision farming that can help reduce the loss of nutrients and all of those kinds of things that are important to the quality of life in our state. That's why we've made this a priority, and that's why we're continuing to look at all different avenues, whether it's the funding that we've gotten through Connect America, or the initiative we have at Connect Iowa, or our own Connect Every Acre, or utilizing these FCC grants. But it's, the quicker we can do it, the better it's going to be for this state and for our opportunity to grow. Well, they did provide a significant property tax credit that will be an important tool. And they passed, legislation authorizing that. They didn't provide the specific state appropriation. But as you see, we're getting substantial money from other sources as well. And we're going to continue to ask the legislature to be a partner with us in this endeavor as we go forward.
So how many of you are doing this because of the property?
You want to answer that?
Yeah, I can address that. Incrementally, none of these programs on its own is going to do a lot. It's incremental. The property tax, we're going to do the Connect America funding to make sure that we get broadband, the 10.1 or 10.3 out to those customers. 10.1 out to those customers. The Connect America or Connect Iowa initiative, with Connect Every Acre initiative, is going to help us increase those speeds to the 25 meg. And we're still in the process of doing the analysis, the engineering of that. But the property tax credits that we get in Iowa will help us, encourage us to go from the 10 to the 25 meg service. Excuse me? The program, the Connect America program is over a six-year period. We'll do it at the same time we do the deployment.
Yes.
I believe so.
Yes, they are all eligible. And I think he made a good point. It's not just one item that makes this happen. And you think about when electricity was brought to America, it wasn't just one item, it was a lot of things. The Congress authorized the REA. Communities formed their own, their own municipal electrics. And then there were private investors and firms that got into the business of generating and distributing electricity. There was a whole lot of things that made that happen. Well, this is the same way. It's a different and more modern era, but having broadband and having high speed is important, and we're trying to move forward in every way we can. And we recognize that, the criteria for this is not as high as our goal is with the Connect Every Acre, but it's an important step forward, and it's something we're appreciative. And we know that we can't all do it alone, and it is expensive, but it is also an investment in our future. that I think is going to pay back in a big way.
Sure. For CenturyLink, I can't speak specifically today on which areas, but I can reconfirm that these are all rural areas that without the subsidy from the Connect America Fund would likely not be getting broadband within the next 6 years.
And I would have to echo those thoughts. We're also working on the underserved. There hasn't been a whole lot of talk about that. We have a lot of customers in Windstream. They're 1 meg or less, and this will help them with route broadband, going forward with their children, their folks working from home, a lot of other issues that, yes, that's probably one of our main issues. And again, on the rural part of Iowa, there are customers that we may never have served had it been not for these funds.
Thank you. How much private investment did it leverage? I don't know. I mean, each of the companies here have made substantial private investment. I don't know. You all want to try to address that? They can't address it today, but I can tell you, they've already made substantial investments and are intending to continue to make those. But the real goal here is in the federal legislation, and what we're doing at the state level recognizes that in sparsely populated rural areas, it's just going to be more expensive to get high-speed internet and to get broadband access. And so these incentives and the programs that we've approved at the state level, as well as the money available for from Connect America, is helping to do that and to help it happen sooner. Well, I think we're continuing to measure that. And I don't know, can our Connect Iowa people answer that question? Did you hear the question? Yes.
According to our data, the 88,000 homes that are impacted, homes and businesses that are impacted by the main announcement, 50,000 and 127 of them do not have any broadband that speeds at 3 megabits per second download.
I mean, after all this, how many are still out there that don't have it tonight or are underserved that are left to do?
Give me 3 minutes. I can give you an answer.
Well, the other thing I would just say, we don't want anybody left out when this is all over. That's why we call it Connect Every Acre. We want to connect every acre of Iowa, and we know this isn't the end. It is, in a sense, it's not the beginning, but maybe it's the beginning of the end. but I think it shows a thoughtful, systematic, aggressive approach that we're taking as a state to become the most connected state in the Midwest. And we have a long ways to go, but we're making dramatic steps forward. Well, our people from Connect Iowa, I don't know if, can you answer that for us? Who's the most connected state in the Midwest today? It's a moving target, and I think you looked at it by what percentage of them have high-speed internet.
And we were comparing the Midwest states, right?
Yeah,
To originally,
that's right.
It was the consortium of Midwest states that we were kind of comparing ourselves with.
Well, let me just say, other states recognize the same thing we do. And this is something that is new and something that's needed. And we all need to move there as quickly as we can. We just want to show that in Iowa, we've got a plan. We've got a partnership with the private sector, with the federal government, and with the state to try to achieve that. And I guess I'm a competitive person, and that's the reason why we set that goal of being the most connected state in the Midwest. Oh, a political question. Oh my goodness.
We talk about
Lyon County. He called me to tell me that he's going to be in Lyon County. I'm going to be in Southwest Iowa, so he invited me to join him when he gets to Lyon County. But I do congratulate him on doing that, and he's done that before.
Well, how important is it to do it, and if you've done this twice now, why is it so important?
Well, it's still a long time till the February caucuses. So you remember at this point in the last election, he was way down as well. I'm not predicting that he's going to be the one win this time because it's a very uh, competitive field and there's a lot of good candidates out there. But I think it's good to get out and see the people of Iowa, to go to all 99 counties, to build a statewide organization so you can get your people to the caucuses. Well, I think it's anti-Washington. People are really tired of the mess we have in Washington. First of all, we have an $18 trillion national debt. Freedom is on retreat everywhere in the world. We're seeing uh, the, the forces, whether it's ISIS or Iran or Russia, you name it, they seem to be on the march. Freedom is on the retreat. Um, our, I just heard on the radio this morning, farm exports are going to be down. The federal EPA seems to be conducting a war on renewable fuels by not enforcing the renewable fuel standard, which has driven down the price of corn below the cost of production. So I guess there's good reason for people to be mad about Washington. I think they have a different view of the state because we are proactive and we're out there and we're listening to people and we're taking action. And so that's a little different, I think. But I totally understand. And you have some really capable people that have been successful in business, or Ben Carson, a surgeon who has had a phenomenal career as a doctor and is now uh, offered his services to the nation. He's got a great success story as somebody that grew up very poor in Detroit and then went on to become a noted surgeon, and somebody had the courage to tell the president um, what he thought at the prayer breakfast. So it's no doubt that people would admire people with those kind of attributes, but it's still a long time till the Iowa caucuses. Well, and what is the norm? It constantly changes. It's just like we're talking about here, the importance of broadband, and so it's going to be a new norm, and things today are different because of what's happened with social media, and every election is different. And I was told a long time ago, don't run your next election based on what's happened in the past. I've tried to follow that advice and I've never lost. So I think it's helpful to just assume there's a norm that we're going to return to, because I don't think so. I think it's always going to change and be different. But what is important to me is that we keep the Iowa caucuses first in the nation, because this is a good place to start the process. Iowans take the responsibility seriously. We've had great collaboration between the two parties to do that. And you saw the kind of turnout. Well, you've seen the turnout that candidates are getting as they travel around the state. So I think Iowans are really tuned in and interested and know that this is a very important election and want to make a thoughtful decision.
I have a question. Governor, why is Hy-Vee getting $18 million in tax incentives? We've got a situation here where you have underserved people. Hy-Vee are come and go. It's already in the state. They're just moving from one place, not to Des Moines to another place in Des Moines. What sense does that make?
Well,
How do you justify that kind of effect here? Who are doing that?
Well, these decisions are made by the Iowa Economic Development Authority Board, and they have certain criteria in terms of job creation that they evaluate to determine who's going to receive assistance. But these are great companies. They employ a lot of people, and Hy-Vee, I think, is the largest private employer in our state. They're an employee-owned company. Well, Come and Go is also a family-owned business in this state, and they also employ a lot of people all over the state. They're continuing to grow. We are appreciative that those companies have their headquarters in Iowa and that are growing and adding jobs here in our state. I'm hopeful that won't happen. I think the Department of Human Services took a very thoughtful and deliberative approach. They spent 6 months putting this together, and then they have thoughtfully evaluated. And I've seen the spreadsheet on how they evaluated the bids. There was 11 bidders, and obviously, when there's this much money at stake, and you're not one of the 4 successful ones, you're going to be disappointed, and that's true in just about any time you have this kind of a process. But I think the process is fair. I feel confident that the Department of Human Services is approaching this in the correct way. And we're not the first state to do this. I think 20 some other states have already done it. We're trying to learn from their experience. We want to make sure that we're providing better services, that we're focusing on improving the outcome for the Medicaid recipients and doing it in a way that avoids duplication and protects the interests of the taxpayers as well. Well, some of them have had problems in the past that have been corrected. And if you look at the 4 companies, they're all 4 very substantial companies that have had significant experience. And I guess I challenge you to find any Medicaid provider of any magnitude that hasn't had some issues in the past. That's just kind of the nature of it. But we need to learn from that, and we need to make sure that the mistakes that have been made in the past are not repeated. Well, I don't agree with him on this issue. Obviously, as governor, I don't get involved in foreign policy. And I understand there are some issues right now with China, with what's happened with the devaluation of the currency, some of the issues with cybersecurity and whatever. But as you know, the state of Iowa has had a long-standing friendship with our sister state, Hebei, and personally with Xi Jinping. And I'm proud that he calls me an old friend. He came here, was in my office on the 29th day of April of 1985. I intend to, in my understanding now, that in addition to New York and Washington, D.C., he's going to visit Seattle. And there's going to be an opportunity for governors to meet with him in Seattle. I intend to participate in that. Would have preferred to have that in Iowa, but we got that last time, and so I guess we can't get it every time. But our interest is to encourage exports from Iowa to China, and they are the leading purchaser of soybeans. Now, though soybean prices are down and exports are estimated to be down, and part of it is because of the reduction in the export of soybeans. So we are concerned about that. We also are now exporting a lot of pork there, and there's a Chinese company that's purchased Smithfield Foods because they want a safe, reliable supply of pork. But my interest as governor is to promote and grow jobs in Iowa and increase trade that improves farm income. And I respect the fact that people running for president, they're looking at some foreign policy issues as well. And I'll let the people of Iowa judge the candidates on those issues. Thank you.